If you are looking to heal your anxious attachment, I am your girl. As a former anxious girly myself, I would get into relationships. I would get into situationships. I would need the full codependent relationship, obsessively thinking about them. I would make myself physically sick if that person didn't text me back. I would freak the F out if I saw them online and they weren't texting me back. If this sounds like you, hopefully at least this podcast will help. But I also, let me just say, have a book that has just launched that is for the anxious attachment girly. Navigating love, navigating self-confidence, relationships just in general, and actually healing your anxious attachment style. We will be getting into in this episode your dating life, your relationship life, your even platonic relationship life is not going to get any better until you heal the core wounds. So let's get into it this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Way Too Wifey. I'm your host, respectfully Gabby, and in this podcast we talk all things dating and relationships in this modern day. And if you are new here, hi, I'm Gabby. I'm an online dating and confidence coach where I help you transform your confidence and live your best life, heal your anxious attachment style, and get to a secure place where relationships don't affect you at your nervous system level. Relationships are supposed to be there to help you flourish, to have connectedness. They're not there to cause you pain. And if you get into a relationship one after the next and you constantly are feeling pain and anxiousness, that's not a fun feeling. Why would anyone want to subject themselves to that? Deep down, you're craving that connectedness, but realistically, if you don't heal what needs to be healed, you're going to end up in the same dynamics over and over again. I do have an 8-week transformation program where I help women go from a really anxious, insecure version of themselves to the most confident, secure versions of themselves. You have ever thought about coaching? Link in the bio to apply. I have seen so many women come out of this program, and sometimes I'm even amazed. The amount of work that you can do in the 8 weeks, the tools that you gain in the 8 weeks, one of the biggest investments that you can give to your life, just in general, when you feel good and you stop overthinking absolutely everything, that is when you start to attract what you actually want into your life. And that small investment that you've made is going to give you years onto your life, because let's be so honest, when you're anxious, stressed out, overthinking everything, you're losing years off your life, guys. So if you want to continue that cycle, if you want to continue that pattern, by all means, but if you want to step into the fullest magnetic version of yourself, hit the link in my bio, apply for my 8 weeks. But if you're like, you know what, I'm not ready to commit myself to an 8-week span, totally fine. I get that. But I do have a book that just launched. If you want the healing, but you want to maybe start to explore it on your own, my book, Way Too Wifey, The Anxious Girl's Attachment Guide to Love. I have spent so much time writing this. The years that I have spent in a constant cycle of getting myself way too attached, way too quickly to people that did not even deserve my time, energy, or effort. I wish that I can gain all that time back. But then I think about this and I'm like, I was meant for that to happen to me so that I can help myself get out of it, and then also help people who want to heal and want good, healthy relationship dynamics in their lives. I didn't even know. And if you're like, I don't necessarily know if I have anxious attachment, totally fine. When I started dating, and this was maybe in my early 20s, right, would be so obsessive over men. I would put all of my validation on whether or not I was getting attention from men, overthink literally everything. I would overdo it in most cases. I would always text them all the time, or spill my feelings to them day one. I wanted the validation that I was good enough, and that I was pretty enough, and that I was lovable, and that someone wanted me. I don't think it really took a toll until I got into my first relationship. When I started this relationship with this guy, I was such an anxious mess. And there was a lot of changes in my life that were happening at the time when we started getting into a relationship. I was starting college at a new university. I was moving to a new city, and when you're young and you move to a completely new city, it is a scary thing. And it's okay, there's a lot of different changes. So I convinced myself for the longest time that I wasn't as anxious because of him. I was just anxious. And maybe that was just my new identity, and I was an anxious girly. Everyone has anxiety these days. Naturally, there's a lot of changes happening. I'm probably just stressed because there's a lot going on. And I was in this relationship. I didn't realize that that the relationship itself was causing me the anxiety. I turned into the most psychotic, craziest version of myself that I've ever seen to date. That was the craziest version of myself that I've ever been. I was going through his phone, wanted to like track his location at all times, was always on edge with every little thing. Like, how did I go from a secure version of myself, I'm living my peaceful life, everything is fine, and then I get into this relationship and I all of a sudden feel so insecure about myself, comparing myself to every single girl that is talking to him or that's like around him, or I feel like he's gonna leave me for another girl, he's gonna have a better connection with another girl, and all of that stress, all of the worry, all of the anxiety if he's not texting me back or if he doesn't want to see me for a night, if he wants to spend a night with his friends. When I left that relationship, obviously it was the biggest heartbreak of my life. Relearn your life as this single gal again. I started to feel so much more confident in myself. That anxiety that I had in the relationship slowly started to dissipate. And I was like, that's weird. Maybe I'm just like settled into this new city, experiencing some new things. I feel like at ease again. It wasn't until I got into my next relationship and those same patterns popped up and I was so anxious. I was afraid he was going to leave, checking and comparing myself to every girl that he's dated in the past, and all of the same things started to pile up into this relationship. And then I was like, okay, well, the anxiety is back. I'm just an anxious girl. And I started blaming it on that. And it really wasn't until that second relationship had ended that I started feeling good again. And I was like, this isn't a me thing. I mean, it's definitely a me thing, of course, but has to do with the relationships in my life. And if I don't heal that anxiety that I'm experiencing while I'm in relationships, I'm never going to want to date. I'm never going to want to put myself out there, because why would anyone want to put themselves out there if they know it's going to be this like crazy roller coaster of emotions and it's just going to end up in pain? Why would anyone subject themselves to that? I never want to experience this type of pain again. I don't know how to heal this. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know where to start the healing. Like, how does anyone start a healing process? Someone introduced me to like different kinds of books about attachment styles. I did take a lot away from it. A type of attachment style that I have then, it's like it leans more towards the anxious side. I learned later on from those books that it was actually, I had a fearful avoidant attachment style. When you are anxious, but then also avoidant. So you want to get really close to someone and you attach yourself to someone. But the second that something feels off, the second that they start to maybe pull away or maybe show a little bit of a disinterest, or they're just kind of there and the relationship is settled, that's when you're like, oh my God, they're going to leave me, so I have to leave them first. So you will do anything to push them away. You'll leave on your own. Instead of feeling that pain again, it's wanting to push the person away completely because you don't want to experience that pain and you feel like they're going to end up leaving you. So in turn, you end up pushing them away instead. I fell into that for a while. Like, I was reading books, I was doing stuff, and I'm like, at what point does like someone consider themselves healed? Or like, what do I have to do? And like, what is the actual problem? I don't understand where to start even. I heard like either it was like a podcast or I don't know, someone talking about attachment styles and talking about the core wounds that come along with each attachment style and like where that stems from and like your parenting dynamic and where you learned love. I realized that I had the core wound. There was a couple actually. The core wound of one, not being enough. When you have the core wound of not being enough, you will naturally and organically attract people that will mirror that back to you. They will put you in positions where you feel like you're not good enough just so that you can, on a subconscious level, validate like, oh, see, look, I am right. I'm not good enough. This person doesn't love me, so then I must not be lovable, or I must not be enough for them, or this little thing that I have that I don't like about myself, that person had complained about, so maybe that just means that I'm not lovable. You will attract the most unloving partners when you have not healed the core wounds that come along from your attachment style. A lot that comes along with the anxious attachment style is not feeling good enough, not feeling lovable, and the fear of abandonment, which I did not realize how deep of a scar that the fear of abandonment can leave. You can get this from your childhood, from very small things. It doesn't have to be this really traumatic childhood that you had. Genuinely just be the fact that your parents were either emotionally absent or physically absent or just not present a lot in your life. It could just be as small as that to where you feel like, oh my God, I feel like this person's not going to come back, or I feel like this person's going to leave me. The fear of abandonment will get you overthinking in every single relationship that you step into. For me, it was my parents were always working. Like I was always kind of just on my own because my siblings were a little bit older. They had their own friends. They had their own lives going on. And I was the youngest. And I kind of felt like I lived with my friends' families for quite a while. I was just hopping around from family to family. And a lot of my memories as a child was with like my friends' families. And there was always that like feeling within me, like, are my parents going to be able to show up for this? Are they going to be able to pick me up if I need to get picked up? It was just always that like fear and the feeling of, I don't know if my parents are going to be available to pick me up. Or like even from school sometimes of like all of the other kids, their parents are picking them up early for like half days and stuff. But then I would have to spend the full day at school, like kind of by myself because I was the only one whose parents were working, not the 9 to 5s, but 7 to 7s, or they were traveling for work. So I just always felt abandoned in a sense as a child. You take that in as abandonment. You take that in as, okay, maybe I'm not lovable, or maybe they don't love me enough. And obviously, as an adult, that just sounds absurd and that sounds crazy. You kind of realize that a little bit more, like logically, obviously, that it wasn't my parents' fault for having to provide and put food on the table. I am so appreciative of the life that they were able to provide for me. But at the same time, as a child, when you internalize those things at a super young age, you start to grow up with that belief. Sometimes you don't even realize that you do have those beliefs at a very subconscious level until you start dating, until you start putting yourself out there and get into relationships. And then you're like, I'm so confused. Like, why is every relationship that I get into, why do I feel so attached to this person that I feel like I can't live without them when it's only been a couple of days? Like, this doesn't seem normal. And I found myself in a lot of situationships back to back right after my second relationship. I've only had 2 relationships in my life, but after my second relationship, I found myself in situationship after situationship after situationship. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was emotionally unavailable, and I like realized that after the fact. I think also, I mean, definitely a lot had to do with I was getting so attached, and then I started self-sabotaging. I was dating people that didn't deem me as lovable, or maybe they thought I was overly lovable and it scared them. I was like, what is the real problem here? I never want to feel this way again. And then the honest final straw that I was like, something's gotta give. And I write about all of these stories separately in the book. So hopefully that provides a little bit of entertainment in my book if you decide to buy. I wrote about this story where I was bending over backwards for a guy that I had dated for maybe a week. If that, no offense, but he was kind of a loser. And I was so attached. I was so in love. I was so obsessed with the idea of him like potentially loving me, getting into a relationship with this person. It wasn't because I thought that this person was like the best fit for me. It was the fact that I was then attached to him that I felt like I had to have him. If we are being so honest and so real with ourselves, if we even ask ourselves, is this the right fit for me in my life? The fact of the matter is that, one, I wasn't healed. I had this scarcity mindset that, okay, just because this guy is showing me a little bit of attention, that means that there's no other guys that will ever show me a little bit of attention again. So I might as well commit to this one because it feels good right now. Was I really asking myself the long-term big picture questions of, does this guy even fit into my life? Is this guy making my life easier? Does this guy want good for me? Is he just triggering my anxious attachment style? Or is he actually a good fit for me in my life? Does he show up with love and respect and kindness and want to care for me, want to provide for me, want to make me feel safe? Because I can guarantee you that entire 2 weeks that we spent kind of dating-ish, whatever you want to call it, I was the most anxious, on edge version of myself, and I was spiraling with my best friend. Every single day we would call each other because she was also going through something as well at the same time. We would take turns spiraling. One day I would be bawling my eyes out like I can't control my own feelings. Meanwhile, let's be so for real, I knew this guy for a week and a half and I'm crying my eyes out over him. What do you mean I'm crying my eyes out for a man that I've only known a week and a half? Let's be so for real. My final straw, when that ended, I was like, something's got to give. I didn't date for a while after that. I was so focused on I have to heal myself because that was unacceptable. The fact that I cried over a man that I've known for 1 week that talked about his ex on an endless cycle. And everything I did, he compared me to his ex. This is one thing. I had like cramps one day, and he's like, oh, I know how you feel. Like, my ex had really bad cramps. I'm like, not only did you just compare me to your ex, and in any case that would be annoying, but I'm also super irritable. And for you to say that you can relate because your ex experienced this, I want to slap you in the face right now, respectfully. After that ended, I felt so alone in Miami. I went through this like dark soul of the night era where I was just so solely focused on healing myself. And in that period of time, I was crying myself to sleep almost every night, because I was just like, I don't know what when do you know you're healed? When do you know that everything's fine? Like, I feel like I've been doing so much work and nothing's happening. I'm not meeting anyone. This is so frustrating in this period of time. I just feel alone. I feel like there's no one to like really process these feelings that are coming up. And then I was introduced to like hypnosis, and that honestly was such a big healing moment for me. Letting go of the childhood memories that I had where I felt at the time like I was not good enough or that I wasn't lovable. Sometimes you have to like re-experience it, make peace with the fact that it happened and that you're choosing differently. What I've realized through all of the healing that I do, and again, if you want to fully step into your best self, the book just came out, Way Too Wifey. During that time, I was doing like hypnosis. I was doing therapy, which wasn't working until I really gained that inner self-confidence of like, you know what? I'm going to just stand on business from now on. Let me be so for real. Healing is not linear. Healing is a process. And there are times where I fall back into my old patterns and I'm like, oh yeah, Gabs, like, let's pick ourselves back up. It happened. But giving yourself the grace instead of beating yourself up over it, the more that you beat yourself up over it, shame yourself for doing something that you're not proud of, the worse off that it's going to be. If you're just like, you know what, you made a mistake. You're human. We all do it. But at the same time, it's time to pick yourself back up, make better decisions moving forward. Healing to me is really just choosing small choices every single day that show up as your highest version of yourself. Also, knowing when something isn't right for you and when it's going to bring you chaos and hurt, and cutting it off the first signs of that. And lastly, choosing to respond differently. And not only just choosing different and choosing to walk away when it's necessary, but also choosing to respond differently. You're not overly emotional and overly like, I can't believe you did that. You're sending these massive paragraphs. It's like, you don't have to do that. The more that someone does do that, I think it just shows that like, okay, maybe you're not healed, and that's okay. It's okay to have a natural response. It doesn't mean that you're not healed. We're all human. We're all going to feel things, but it's about validating yourself when emotions do come up and acknowledging the fact that, okay, these feelings are coming up and it's okay to have these feelings, but we're choosing to respond differently now. We're not choosing to react just because it feels good in the moment. That never feels good after the fact. If you want to send that massive message, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I going to be okay with this tomorrow, rereading this message back? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be proud of this message? Is this the highest version of myself? Is this how that person would show up? Because I think a lot of times we're like, no, we have to tell them off. We have to put them in their place. But if that person's not even receptive to feedback, if that person doesn't really care that much, you telling them off is only proving to them that they have power over you, that they control your emotions instead of you controlling your own emotions. And just because you're experiencing emotions doesn't mean that you're not healed, but it's what you do with those emotions moving forward that prove whether or not you are healed. You do take that step forward with this person. You want to try to make it work, even though you know it's not going to work. Or if you want to take a step back because you're like, actually, I've seen the story play out. I know how this is going to end. And if I'm being so for real with myself, I don't want to experience that type of hurt again. And I'm going to choose to see things differently instead of going after this man because it feels good in the moment and you want to prove that you are good enough to him and that you're lovable to him and that he chooses you at the end of the day. But if you don't choose you and you abandon yourself to make this person like you, even though you know it's not right for you, proves that you still have some work to do. And that's okay. It's okay to not be there yet because it is a process of healing and getting yourself there. It's so good in those moments to ask yourself, why are you still pursuing this? Is it something that you're trying to prove to this person? Is it because you really do see a future with this person? This is what you want in your future. Ask yourself why you keep going after this. Do some reflection, do some journaling, and like think about it, cry it out, and do some meditation on it. You don't heal overnight. Everything is on such a subconscious level. Everything that we attract into our lives is on such a subconscious level. And until you start healing what's going on in the pits of the bottom that you've been trying to ignore all of these years, till you get to that level, you're going to continue to experience the same things. If it's when you're going to experience these things. But I've seen so many girls like, I am responding differently. I'm standing on business, but I still really feel anxious, and I'm still pursuing this guy that I know is no good for me, that's been giving me the bare minimum. I'm still going after him. But if you're still going after him, you're ignoring the fact that you've completely shut down your body from functioning normally, and you're experiencing crazy amounts of anxiety over it. But you're like, no, it's fine because I'm not reacting on it. I'm not being crazy. I'm not overreacting. I'm just kind of letting things happen. The thing is, you're still experiencing that anxiety, and the only way out is through. The only way out is, you know what? This is no good for me. And I know that. And now that I know that, I'm going to choose something else. Instead of continuing to pursue this guy that is not emotionally available for you, that's not giving you the love and kindness and respect and mutual give and take that you need in a relationship in order to make it work. True healing is choosing to see things differently, responding differently, and cutting things off when you know that they're no good for you. The one part that I didn't really touch on too much in this is the choosing to see things differently. Because if you have those core beliefs of you not being lovable, you not being good enough, every time you get into a relationship or you start talking to someone and they're not really giving you the energy that you want, you're going to automatically assume that it's a you problem. It's like, oh, well, he must not like me. He must not find me attractive. He must not find me funny enough, good enough, pretty enough. It's a you problem. You then become the victim here. And instead of putting yourself in the victim spot, realize that not everyone is going to have the same taste. Could it be you? Sure. Maybe it could be you. Maybe he's just not interested in you. But does everyone in the world love chocolate? No. You could be the best thing in the world to someone, but that might not be someone else's flavor, and that's completely fine. And in the terms of Amaya Papaya, you just might not be his cup of tea, and that's fine. You don't have to drink it. Not everyone is going to like everyone. And you got to accept that. That doesn't mean that you're not lovable. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. That just means that he might, one, not be emotionally available. He might not want a relationship. He might see that you're too good for him. He might just not be into brunettes and you're a brunette. He might not be over his ex. He might not be in a position to give you the life that you want. So instead, he's going to push himself away from the relationship, and you're deep down internalizing it like you're the problem, when in fact it has nothing to do with you. And when in fact it's probably that you're too good for him, when in fact you never had any business staying in the presence of a man who never saw your value from day one. You didn't have any business being in that. When you choose to see things differently, you stop blaming yourself for everything that's going on wrong, and you start seeing it as, maybe I just wasn't his cup of tea. That's fine. Maybe he's just not in position to date. It's cool. Maybe he's just busy. It doesn't have the time or space or energy, or can't provide me the life that I want. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I know that I'm great. I know that I'm perfect. And not perfect, but I'm perfect for the right person. And I have a lot going for me, and I'm fine. I am so lovable. I'm so funny. Like, I'm going to make the right guy so happy, so fulfilled, so obsessed with me one day that everyone else is not even going to make sense. Why am I trying to prove my worth to this broken man who can't see it from day one, or who can't give me what I need from day one? Sometimes it really has nothing to do with you. And if you choose to look at things differently instead of blaming yourself every single time, you're going to have the confidence to put yourself back out there. You're going to have confidence in yourself. Everything that you do, it's like, I'm not the problem. I know that I'm great. Like, I know that I'm that bitch. Okay. I know that I have a lot going for me. And if he doesn't see it, that's fine. I really am. I'm not in the business anymore these days of proving my worth to anyone. I know that I'm good enough. And when you know at your core that you're good enough, that you're safe enough, that you're lovable, anything that anyone else does, any way that someone responds to you doesn't rattle you. You don't have as crazy of an emotional reaction to it because you know who you are at your core. And when you know who you are at your core, there's not anything that anyone can say to you, there's nothing that anyone else can do to you that will shake you up. And honestly, like, I'm so glad that I was able to pick myself out of the most insecure, the most unconfident, the most anxious mess and attached mess. Like, that was an ugly energy on me. Okay. Now these days, I'm not proving myself to anyone. Like, you got to prove to me that you deserve a spot in my life. If not, there's no point of us doing this. Like, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I'm not here to fix a broken man. You figure that out on your own. Okay. If you're watching this and you're like, there's no hope in me, just trust me. Know that there is hope if you believe that there's hope. Need you to know that I was at rock bottom at one day. Like, I was truly internally spiraling endlessly on a loop. I was comparing myself to every girl. I wanted to wring the necks out of every woman that even looked in my man's direction. Literally thought I was going to lose my mind. Honestly, at one point, I did not feel okay. I went from that to now, truly every relationship that I even attract into my life, if they're not giving me the energy that I need, unattractive to me now. That doesn't mean work harder. That means I'm going to fall back because I know where this is leading. And I'm not in the business of putting in extra work in order to make this happen. If you want to take the steps to really heal, because I've heard this on multiple calls that I've taken with girls that are like, there's no hope for me. Like, this is my personality. This is who I am. It's not who you are. It's who you were. It's the conditioning that you were brought up as. This is fixable. You can step into the most confident version of yourself. And what confident people don't tell you is that they were once the insecure version of themselves as well. The fact that I'm even exposing myself and putting myself out there, I would have never done a couple years ago even. It is possible for you to change your life, but the change doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in work in order to make that happen. And the best way to go from that insecure, anxious version of yourself to the most confident, magnetic version of yourself. Trust me when I say my book is a simple read and it's straight to the point, and it's also entertaining because I put some story times in there, and I'm sure at one point or another you've probably experienced some kind of relationships like these. There's like 5 or 6 stories that I write in the book, and truly they have shaped who I am, how I think about myself, the relationships that I want in my life. Really, at the end of the day, I hope this book brings you some kind of peace or some kind of entertainment, or brings you just that step closer that you need to step into the fullest version of you. If you're not in the space right now to go for the full 8 weeks of coaching, like my truest hopes, my truest intentions with this book is for it to fall into the hands of every anxious attachment girly out there. And if you want to know the steps that I took in order to get from where I was to get to where I am today, the book truly everything that I have to offer. So I will attach the link in this episode. But that is it for this week. I really hope you enjoyed, and I really hope that you can get your hands on this book, because when I am telling you, I really poured my heart out onto these pages. Sign up for my 8 weeks or just one session. I do offer that as well. If you want to do that, link in bio. I love you guys all so much. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all next week.